Scotty. Starting up, number 10. This was the one I messed up that I got right. Okay. So I think we're back on track.
Scotty. I thought that might have been true because you called them a mess earlier.
They are. But they come in at number 10 over the Clippers. Now, the Clippers, by the way, we've had a revolving door at number 10. Warriors have kind of been knocking on that door, not quite making it, but you have them here at number 10, Scotty.
Yeah, listen, and I've said this before. I know they finally, they've been awful on the road. We talked about earlier. Now 9-29 after a win at Dallas tonight. In a game they squeaked out, and not a great record. Obviously, hovering around 500 for it seems like the whole year. They're 38-36, holding down the 6th spot, so they're just out of the play-in game right now in the West. But they're the defending champs. Steph Curry, since he's come back from injury, has been balling. Klay Thompson is playing really well. The big thing with them is whatever is going on with Andrew Wiggins, and I don't want to speculate. There's rumors out there. I don't know if they're true or not, or what is true with Andrew Wiggins, but what we know is he's going through some personal stuff in some fashion that has kept him away from the team for a long time now. And there's a lot of rumors out there that he won't return. And without him, this isn't. I keep saying this is the same team that went and won it all last year on paper, unless Wiggins doesn't return. If Wiggins doesn't return, he was a huge piece of that title run last year. Jordan Poole hasn't had the season I think they expected from him. Draymond Green is Draymond Green, and is this his last year? And I know he's not going to get re-signed, but I don't remember if he has one more year after this. I'm ready for him to move on and be trashed somewhere. But I can't eliminate this team, Chris. I can't eliminate this team, and I kind of want them to make it into the 5 spot. So listen, I was really looking forward to in the West a 4-5 matchup of Phoenix and LA Clippers. But now and you'll notice a team that's missing from my top 10 that probably would have been there a day ago and isn't there now, and that's the Clippers. Listen, Paul George gets unfortunately injured last night. They basically sprained knee, going to be reevaluated in 2 to 3 weeks, but I don't expect him to be back for the first round of the playoffs. I don't even know about the second round. I think Paul George is out a while from what I've read from my pro football doc on Twitter. Yeah. My Twitter doc. So that's a huge loss. So I kind of want Golden State to move into that 5 spot and have a 4-5 of Phoenix and Golden State. I think that'd be a fun series to watch in that first round. But yeah, I slot the Warriors at 10 here. Someone's got to be 10, right, Chris? There's got to be this is 10 teams here, so I'm good with them at 10.
Yeah, and I was with you. I was with you for a long time on the Warriors are a backdoor team to make the playoffs and to be making noise once they get there. I'm jumping off the bandwagon for the Warriors, and there's a couple reasons why. And you named a couple of the biggest reasons why. They are not good on the road. 9 wins on the road all season long. 9-29 isn't going to cut it for a team that's going to be on the road in the playoffs all throughout the playoffs. That's not going to be a recipe that they've been able to figure out. They're great at home, sure, but I don't think that that's going to be good enough. Also, Andrew Wiggins is very good defensively, and I think that is one. This team cannot win a title without Andrew Wiggins, and I think for those reasons they just don't have enough depth at a certain point that I just feel can last against some of the top teams, especially in the West. Phoenix is better. Denver's good. Even against some of these other teams, I just think that they're not going to be able to have the same defensive presence that they would like to have, especially with Andrew Wiggins, what he's been doing in the playoffs previous seasons on slowing some of those perimeter shooters down. I just don't think that they could get there. So I do think they're good enough right now to be in the top 10. When it comes to later on in the season, I just think they have to have Andrew Wiggins if they want to stand a chance in the Western Conference, especially against the teams ahead of them. Not only that, but I hate to say this, but when the Lakers come back, when LeBron comes back and actually can play alongside AD, whose AD has been kind of like just tearing things up a little bit here and there for the LA Lakers. Man, that's a team that I know the Nuggets would struggle to match up with. I still think the Nuggets are a better team overall and have a little bit better depth. I think there's some matchup issues with the Nuggets and the Lakers at certain positions. So I don't know.
I Chris Broussard today ranked the Western Conference teams and their likelihood to win the West. He had Denver at 5.
Well, Chris Broussard
most likely in the West with LA Lakers at 4. The LA Lakers coming into today weren't even going to be in the playing game. And he had them at 4. And he literally was like, well, they get LeBron and Anthony Davis. And then he's like, let's not forget Jared Vanderbilt. I'm like, Jared Vanderbilt was like the 12th guy on the Nuggets a couple years ago. What are we doing here? Jared Vanderbilt wouldn't play for the Nuggets. No, he'd get like 5 minutes a game.
And that's the weird thing with Jared Vanderbilt, right? Because normally he does. I mean, even on some of those Minnesota Timberwolves teams, he didn't really. There was streakiness there. That he wasn't getting in the games a lot. Even when he was, bouncing around the league, he wasn't getting a lot of run. Somehow he lands in LA, and he's a great fit with the LeBron and AD match. There's just something that they're doing with him, fitting him with that lineup and that roster. It's like a perfect harmony where he's actually able to play good defense, and they're putting him in schemes that works.
He's always been a good defensive player, but he's a huge negative on offense. The dude can't shoot to save his life.
He's not a great guy when it comes to putting points on the board. But I'm not gonna lie, I think the Warriors, I think I'm officially off on. As long as Andrew Wiggins isn't playing for that team, and as long as they continue to struggle on the road, I just can't see them going on a deep run in the playoffs. I don't see it. Number 9, Phoenix. The Phoenix Suns come in here, Scotty, and they are in a heated battle right now. Well, not heated because the Lakers are putting it to them by 9 points so far in the third quarter on ESPN. 4:38 left in the third. Lakers lead the Phoenix Suns. But, the Phoenix Suns not really playing with the guy that they made that big midseason trade for, i.e. KD, has been out, and there's a chance he might not be around for a little bit. It may not. I've heard rumors that he's coming back soon, but I've also heard rumors that he might not be. You have him here at number 9.
Yeah, and listen, is this low? Maybe, but we don't know what they are yet. They had 4 games with Durant in the lineup, and yeah, they won those 4 games, but those were against 4 not good teams. I think they played like Charlotte, Chicago, OKC, and somebody else. And yeah, they won all those. Oh, Dallas. None of those teams. Maybe actually OKC might be at like 500. Dallas after tonight is below 500. Dallas is an interesting one who's not on this list as well. Trade for Kyrie Irving, and they may not make the playoffs, Chris. They're all of a sudden in danger. Dallas right now is, where are they?
I've been telling y'all about Dallas.
They are now, after tonight, 9th in the West, and they're a half game out of the playoffs altogether. So they're holding on barely. It's going to be interesting. We got the Lakers, Pelicans, Jazz, Mavs, OKC, and Minnesota all neck and literally the Nuggets are 3.5 games up on Memphis, which is the same separation between 4 and 12 in the West. As far as, everything's bottled in there. Nobody's played great. Phoenix at 38 and 33, 5-5 in their last 10. I know it's with that. Listen, Phoenix's upside is number 1. If everything clicks and everything matches together and Durant's healthy, they have the potential to win it all, and there's no doubt about it. But right now, Durant's not there. They can't seem to stay healthy. They're, right now they're kind of just an average basketball team. So what can I and part of power rankings is how they're playing now, and part of it's upside for me. But right now they're not a top 10 team as far as their performance on the court, but I put them in the top 10 because yes, clearly Phoenix at full capacity with Durant, and if they're clicking, is, you know, one of the top 4 teams in the NBA.
I think based off of the fact that, and you got to think about that trade again, right? They lost depth. They lost a lot of what they really needed in that trade because they had a lot on the output when it came to what they traded away to get Kevin Durant. One, i.e., Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges was the glue that held this team together, and he is a stud. Now, you trade away one of your best players, and you get a guy that's not playing. That's a net negative to me. And they haven't been able to piece it together. I mean, they've lost 4 of their last 5. Their only sole win against the Orlando Magic by 3. I mean, that's not a team that's trending in the right direction. So, again, to your point, and to Nicholas in the chat that says Phoenix at number 9, no way. Currently, I can't put Phoenix very high on my list based off of the fact that KD's not available. The best ability is availability, right? That's what a lot of people say.
Yeah. Their bench tonight, 7 of 21 from the field, Chris.
Like,
that's not going to cut it.
They're
not going to cut it.
They're at a net negative based off of that trade. And
Landry Shamet, nice player. Payne can have some nice moments. They don't really have any backup bigs that you really fear or anything like that. Like, they are literally kind of just, and to be fair, what's his name? Their center is not, Ayton's not playing tonight.
Ayton's not playing.
So they have Bismack Biyombo, but he's not really a dude either that you can really rely on. So they're literally all backcourt. Their wings aren't elite. They're Paul, Booker, Ayton's a nice piece, and Durant. They're 4 guys, and the rest of their guys might as well not exist.
Well, and Chris Paul isn't the same defensively as he used to be. So
no,
he's what Pat Bev called him, a road cone. He's even more a road cone now than he was back when he was called a road cone and couldn't play defense. So, I think that there's some challenges with the Phoenix roster as it sits. If it's all complete, like you said, they are the ceiling of the Western Conference when they are clicking all together. But it just depends on when KD gets back. Next up, the Knicks. The Knicks.
I don't even love seeing that there. And I made these power rankings.
And you made these power rankings. The Knicks have been a team that has shocked people. Between RJ Barrett and Julius Randle. Julius Randle went up for like 57 the other day against the Minnesota Timberwolves in a loss, 140 to 134 in regulation. That wasn't overtime. That was regulation. 57 points, 19 for 29 shooting. But the Knicks somehow find themselves in a spot where they don't typically find themselves, and that's the 5 seed behind the top 4 in the East. Milwaukee, Celtics, Sixers, and the Cavs. Then you have the Knicks. Now, there's still a gap there. There's still 4 games back of the Cleveland Cavaliers, so it's still going to be a tough road up that ladder there. I don't think they're going to get there. But what do you like about them?
Listen, defensively they play hard. I kind of made fun of, a lot of people made fun of the Jalen Brunson signing, not because Jalen Brunson's not a good player, but maybe a lot of people thought that was an overpay.
I was critical of it. I kind of, still
we're wrong. I'm not. No, I mean, Jalen Brunson's done everything and more. Averaging 24 a game, 6 assists. Like, he's doing everything for them. Listen, Jalen Brunson left a Dallas team that made, even without when Luka wasn't playing in the playoffs last year, they were winning games because of Jalen Brunson carrying them. In the playoffs last year, Dallas was. Now Dallas is a mess, adding even Kyrie Irving, and they're missing Jalen Brunson. And I didn't know that. Like, I did not see that in my crystal ball. Jalen Brunson is the best player on this Knicks team. I've always said you can't win big in the NBA when Julius Randle is the best player on your team. I think Jalen Brunson is better than Julius Randle, in my opinion. I don't like Julius Randle's game at all.
Well, he's streaky.
At all.
He's streaky.
Listen, he puts up 25.6, but he can't really shoot. We saw that in the 3-point contest at All-Star Weekend. Dude can't shoot. Does a lot of mid-range game, which, doesn't shoot for a very high percentage. Play some bully ball and is big and stocky, which is nice at times. But listen, give credit to this team. They were kind of looking like they were going to be 7-8 in the East, and they made a run up to 5, and kind of probably clearly going to be that 5 seed in the East. But they'll likely play Cleveland in that first round and probably have an uphill battle, in my opinion, in that one. But you never know. And they have, between Randall, Brunson, and Barrett, we called them the three mids or whatever. But I like Brunson. I like Brunson now. I feel like I was wrong on Brunson.
I mean, I think Brunson is a guy that you can put on your back and take you to an NBA Finals. Like,
No,
I don't.
But we were calling him mid. He's worth the contract he got.
Yeah, he's been performing it. But also too, Brunson has been like the Knicks have been slightly better in his absence recently, off the floor versus on the floor. He's plus 2.8 points per 100 possessions. And then they've been without him on the floor, plus 2.1. So they're better slightly without him than with him.
Wait, didn't you say plus 2.8 with him and plus 2.1 without him?
They're plus 2.8 points per possession, off the floor, when he's off the floor.
In what sample size?
So this is over the course of the season, based off of when he plays and when he doesn't play. And he plays a lot, but then he's also missed a handful of games too. So there's been a little bit of I mean, is he still what the Knicks need? Yeah, absolutely. I think he's still the guy that you still have to lean on. You traded for him, and he's been a very, very good player. And I think that they need somebody like that. But I mean, I think that he's a good player. He's a good player.
I mean, he shoots 48.7% from the field, 41% from 3, which is the highest. Both of those are higher than Julius Randle or RJ Barrett, their other leading scorers. He's their highest free throw percentage shooter. He averages the most assists on the team. Listen, sometimes plus minus can be a little off. Jalen Brunson's the best player on the New York Knicks.
Especially with,
no doubt.
Well, especially with Julius Randle being, I mean, he shot 5 for 24 against the Clippers on Saturday, and he was just not very good. He just disappears in some games. RJ Barrett's highly inconsistent. But I think that overall, they've improved their offense. They're ranked 5th offensive rating in the NBA based off of just what, Jalen Brunson can help them with. So, I think Jalen Brunson is the end all be all for the New York Knicks to get them to where they need to get? No, but do I think that he's the best player that they have at the moment and for their near future? Yeah, I think he's solid and he's what they need. All right, next up, Sacktown, the most entertaining team to watch in the NBA. Woo. Coming in at number 7.
Yeah. I mean, great on offense. They play at a fast tempo. They get up and down the court. And listen, they haven't made the playoffs since Columbus sailed the ocean blue. So
16 years.
Great to get them back in the playoffs. 16-year active drought that will be ending this year, as they're right now the number 3 seed in the West and probably won't move off that. Maybe they can move up to 2, but I think they'll probably likely finish at 3rd in the West, behind Memphis and Denver. Credit to them, and let's remember the trade deadline last year. Another team that everyone just dogged on, right? When they made that trade, sending Tyrese Halliburton to Indiana and getting Sabonis in return, everyone just dogged them for it. Dogged them. In the offseason this year, they also move off of who's the 3-point shooter they had from Oklahoma. Drawing a blank on his name right now. They move off of him. De'Aaron Fox is kind of finally
he's
been
hitting
the dude
his stride.
that every time he plays the Nuggets, he seems to be that dude every year. But for whatever reason, he hasn't pieced it together. This year, he's been the best player on this team. I mean, Sabonis averaging 19 and 12, doing what he does, but De'Aaron Fox averaging 25 a game. He's such a tough guard. I mean, to me, he's very similar to Ja Morant in their games. Quick, hard. I mean, Ja Morant's probably a little more explosive as an athlete as far as like leaping and dunking and stuff like that. But De'Aaron Fox otherwise can do it all. His team's fun to watch. They'll light it up from three. They can shoot it. Do they play defense? Absolutely not. No, they don't. They just rely on outscoring you. Yep. And that's worked. Obviously, a team like this that hasn't been in the playoffs in 16 years, and none of these players really have, like Sabonis has made it with Indiana, but never, on a run in the playoffs. So none of Harrison Barnes is probably the one that like actually has playoff experience with Golden State. So they're very inexperienced when it comes to playoffs, and I feel like they're gonna have a tough road in the postseason just because it takes time, right? You gotta figure out how the playoff format works. Like playoffs are a different animal, and if you haven't been there before, it's hard to adjust to that on the fly. So we'll see what they're like in the playoffs, but nonetheless, as you said, very exciting team to watch.
Light the beam. Yeah, that's right. What's up, Ty? Welcome in, my friend. So I mean, they're prolific offensively. There are 15 players with an effective field goal percentage of 65% or better on at least 75 field goal attempts since the break. 3 of them are on the Kings. You got Malik Monk shooting 66.9%, Kevin Huerter 66.8%, and Sabonis 64.4%. That doesn't even include what they're getting from De'Aaron Fox from an offensive output. The league's 4th-ranked defense since the break, the Phoenix Suns, still allowed 120 points per 100 possessions. And it wasn't even... It was super easy for the Kings to do that. Now, the thing that... And I was about to be a believer in the Kings, like kind of like I was falling off the bandwagon for the Golden State Warriors. I was starting to get there with the Sacramento Kings until I saw the last couple losses. Giving up 128 to the Jazz and giving up 132 to the Celtics, but then also only getting held to 109 against a good defensive team like the Celtics. So that's the benchmark I was looking for when they play a good defensive team like Boston on how they were able to put together offensive efficiency. And they were only able to put up 109 points and they gave up 132. That's what I would expect to see once they get into a playoff matchup with a good defensive team. So I worry about them in that. That's kind of that pump the brakes outcome that I saw that made me question and pump the brakes on really jumping on the Kings bandwagon. Number 6, the Memphis Grizzlies without Ja. Ja is still
no, did
he play? Is he playing now?
I believe he was coming off the bench tonight. I believe tonight was his first game back. Jaren Jackson's been an absolute monster without him, like 37 tonight even, and it's been averaging like 28 in the last like week or 5 games or whatever it was. Let me check the box score here. They won against Houston by 5 tonight at home, so it's not like they played very well. Ja got 24 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Off the bench, but 17 points, 5 assists, 4 boards. So he returned today.
All right. Well, and yeah, they did. Let's see. Hold on. Yeah, 130, 125. Yeah, Jaren Jackson Jr., Triple J, 37 points, 10 rebounds. He's been one of the biggest surprises of the NBA season. Not that we were like shocked that he was going to be good, but he's way better than I would have thought he was before the season started. His defensive presence and what he's able to do offensively now, 37 points, 10 rebounds. Ooh, man, look out for him to be a super good player over the course of his career moving forward. He is nasty. But you have him here. Why do you have him at number 6?
This is mostly because David Roddy's on the roster, and he's dominant. He did start tonight for him, Chris, because Dylan Brooks was suspended because he got another tech in the game before, and he's got the most techs in the league. So every tech he gets to this point, he gets suspended for a game. Yeah. This is a team that's hard to root for, right? With the Dylan Brooks and the whole Jaw stuff. Not a team that it kind of trying to model themselves as like the 80s Pistons or something, like the bad boys, even though they're not that tough, especially Ja. But you got to respect Ja Morant. I love Desmond Bane at the 2 spot. That backcourt's one of the top backcourts in the league. You talked about Jaren Jackson Jr. and how he's been going off recently. So those 3 pieces, like I'm not a huge Dylan Brooks is great defensively. He's a minus offensively in my opinion. Yeah. Tyus Jones is a nice backup point guard though, a guy that can provide a lot off the bench as well. So they got some depth. Luke Kennard they added late in the season, and he can add some shooting off the bench. So they got some pieces. They're gonna probably be the 2 seed in the West. I think they have a pretty light schedule the remainder of this year, where they should pile up some wins and finish with number 2 seed in the West. But the Grizzlies, even when they were, they were this good, last year or the last 2 years, they've been like one of the top 2 teams in the West. And the playoffs come and you kind of see that they struggle. They're not an overly disciplined team. It's just going to be hard to piece together. I don't fully believe in the Grizz in the playoffs, and I don't fear the Grizzlies as a Nuggets fan.
No,
I don't fear them.
I don't
like
either.
I do. I actually fear like the Warriors more than I do the Grizzlies.
Cuban, thank you so much.
You.
Cuban,
18 months. Congrats
18 months.
On 1.5.
Let's go.
1.5 years, if my math checks out there.
Cuban rolling in. Let's go. Thanks, Cuban.
Love you, Cuban. Love you, buddy. Thanks for the 18 months, and we always appreciate your banter in the chat.
I worry. The thing I worry about with Memphis is just the offense. I just think that, we talk a lot about Dylan Brooks. I mean, given what he is, he's not good offensively, but he is probably one of the better defenders on the perimeter in the NBA. And he's you look at like some of the things, some of the players that he shuts down over the last few games, and even just throughout the season, he's shutting down some of the better players on these rosters. Kyrie was shooting, I think, less than 40%. I think he was like 30% or something the other night. So he was holding Kyrie to, a very good offensive player to a poor shooting percentage. So that's where their bread and butter is. They're ranked 3rd overall defensive rating per 100 possessions, but they just can't score with the best of them. And they're one of the worst spot up shooting teams statistically in the NBA. They just can't. Weak side spot up shooting across the board, everything. They just aren't great from that role when it comes to just making shots. But I think if they have an issue, it's going to be on those shooting slumps, and I just don't believe that this is the year. Maybe next year is the year with another. You have another full season with Triple J, and you get back on track with Ja. He maybe turns things around a little bit. I just don't think that this is the year for Memphis. I think that they're maybe a year away from really being, depending on the acquisitions and things they do to their roster over the offseason, they could be a little bit better next season, but they need shooters there. They just don't have the shooters.
Yeah, outside of Bane and Kennard off the bench, you don't have consistent 3-point shooting on that team.
Ja is one of your best players. He
can't shoot.
He's not a shooter.
No.
They're just a bad spot up shooting team. Cavs coming in at number 5. I'm really close to I love the Cavs. I want to love the Cavs more, but the East is just so good. You have them here at number 5.
Yeah, and listen, 4 of the 5 teams left, spoiler alert, are going to be coming out of the East.
I just found out Legoland is opening a new ride. People are going to be lined up for blocks. Is CSULB still in the tournament?
Hey, lining up for blocks. Yeah.
I get it. I get it.
Is CSULB still in the tournament? LOL. I think you. No.
Hell State, Long Beach, or whatever. What? Or am I missing that one?
Still,
am I missing a joke there?
I think the answer is still. Yep, that's my school. Still no, but hey, I love it. I love it. P3, Memphis, the Bruno Caboclo of the West.
Caboclo,
Caboclo,
obviously.
Yeah.
of the West.
They're 2 years away from being 2 years away. Yeah,
And they'll
exactly.
stay there forever. Forever.
They were in a few years ago. We don't talk about Bruno.
We can. Someone want to talk about Bruno?
Cavaliers, number 5.
Yeah, I mean, for the longest time, I thought there was a separation in the East with the top 3, and even, in my opinion, somewhat the top 2, even though my rankings won't reflect that necessarily. With Cleveland being kind of a tier below, they're starting to eke into where, like, I'm starting to be a little bit of a more of a believer, Chris. I mean, you look at this roster, Donovan Mitchell, we've seen personally, can go off in the playoffs. Like, he can absolutely dominate. Darius Garland, I mean, that backcourt combined, and then you have Mobley and Jared Allen in the interior. Like, you have elite defensive presence in the inside with those two guys. You have Mitchell, who's not a defender but can light it up, and Garland, who's, you know, the last 2 years become way better than anyone probably expected him to be in his career. I like this roster is nice. Like, they can play defense, they can score. I think the pressure is going to be off a little bit when they make the playoffs. Like, this is a Cavs team that hasn't made the playoffs in a while. Going back to, like, feel like LeBron days maybe, and this is a team that doesn't know any better, and they're going to make the playoffs and they're going to play hard. They'll likely, as we talked about, face the Knicks in the first round. I like them to win that series, and then likely they're going to face one of those 3 beasts in the East of Milwaukee, Boston, or Philadelphia. So we'll see what happens there, but this is a fun team to watch, and they're good. They're very good.
They're the number 1 defensive rated team per 100 possessions in the NBA, and they're number 9 offensively. So, I mean, they're still doing good things. I mean, behind, you have Darius Garland, who's been playing good ball. Donovan Mitchell had 2 40-point games last week. I mean, he's absolutely given them a lot of output offensively. Matchups are huge when it comes to Eastern Conference. The Cleveland Cavaliers are 3-1 against Boston, and even they've battled Boston, and they have, matchup wise, play very, very well against Boston. They're 1-2 against Philadelphia, so they haven't had as good of they've been fine against Philadelphia, but not. It's a little bit different. You got a different matchup, but either way, they're absolutely a team defensively when it gets to slowing down the pace. They're bottom of the league in pace per play. Well, when you get to the playoffs, guess what happens to the game? It slows down a lot, and that plays right into what they want to do defensively. And they're very good against some of these teams in the East. So I wouldn't count them out, even against a team like, if they match up against Boston, that might be a scary matchup for them, because I've watched 2 out of the 3 games that they've played against Boston, and I'll tell you, if I'm a Boston fan, I don't want to see Cleveland on the schedule when it comes to the playoff matchup. That's terrifying. So keep an eye on the Cleveland Cavaliers team. I think this team could be a team to maybe be a dark horse in the East. Again, you have those top 3 that everyone's talking about: Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly, but Cleveland's right in the mix. Keep an eye. Next up,
Rec is out here in the chat saying the only Jared Allen I know is from the Culinary Academy. And then P3P's like, the only Jared Allen I know is from the Vikings. And Rec's like, that's the one. I don't know anything about this Culinary Academy.
I don't.
You're talking about, but Jarrett, first of all, this is Jarrett that we're talking about with the T, with a couple T's at the end.
Yep.
But Jared Allen was not a Viking. He was a Chief. Okay.
He was a Viking too.
I know he was a Viking too, but he was a Chief first.
Lakers.
But yeah, the joke is, so you know those NBC openings where they say they're college?
Oh yeah.
I always go with Jared Allen Culinary Academy.
Is that
I did
what
not
that
realize
is?
because he went to like a nothing school. I remember that.
Culinary Academy, apparently. I don't know.
Well, I don't think it was really a culinary academy.
I know.
I don't think that's a real place. It's just called Culinary Academy.
Nicholas says Jared Allen is remembered as a Viking. I mean, it's the
No,
most,
he is not.
it's the most recent team, and so recency bias can tell you that.
Look at Jared Allen stats.
Not to be confused with Jarrett Allen with the Cleveland Cavaliers, by the way. Did someone say Jared Goff? No, Chairman. no one's thinking about Jared Goff. He's more mullet than man. That Jared Allen. Cuban, if you knew more about Culinary Academy, you could tell us if it was a sandwich. It's true. True.
Yeah, I mean, he had more sacks with Minnesota and played longer with Minnesota, but damn it, he was drafted by the Chiefs.
You're gonna die on this hill. It's okay.
And I will always think of him as a Chief. And we traded for a lot. We got a lot back in that trade with Minnesota. It was a trade with Minnesota.
I didn't know Jared Allen played for another team. Wasn't he a lifelong Viking? LOL.
Hey, shut your mouth. He was drafted in the 4th round by the Kansas City Chiefs in 2004. Went to Idaho State. Idaho
Don't
State,
ban me this time.
He is
not Culinary Academy.
He is a
Viking. No, he's not. But probably. Just not in my mind, but in most people's mind. Yeah, probably.
All right, number 4. Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics, who, fell to number 2 in the Eastern Conference and have had kind of a similar rough patch. Their rough patch came, maybe about a week and a half ago when they lost 4 of 5, and now they've kind of gotten a little bit better on the winning side of things. 50-23, still leading their division by a half in the Atlantic over Philadelphia. That's a hell of a race, by the way. But you have the Boston Celtics here at number 4.
Yeah, and listen, I like Boston. I actually probably like Boston more than Philly when it comes to the playoffs. But Boston Philly's been just playing better ball right now. So for the sake of these power rankings and to not be called, biased or whatever, I'm slotting Boston here at 5. They've been 4. They've been 5-5 in their last 10, kind of up and down. They're just so reliant on Tatum and Brown, especially like offensively. Those two combined for almost 60 a game. And after that, there's a huge drop off when you get to like your Marcus Smart, your Derek White, your Malcolm Brogdon. All those guys can contribute, but like Al Horford. So they have pieces. I just think like they're not playing even as well as I think they were last year, especially right now. And I think they struggle in a series against Milwaukee if they face Milwaukee in the playoffs. I don't see them beating Milwaukee. I think it's a bad matchup. I mean, they squeaked by last year, but that was literally without Middleton, and they barely squeaked by against Milwaukee. Don't get me wrong. I love Tatum and Brown. Smart provides what he provides, which is flailing and flopping, but good defense. I like Derek White. For whatever reason, their coach doesn't like Derek White that much. He like sits him in like 4th quarters of games for no reason at all. Like they should play Derek White more than they do. But right now, for the sake of these power rankings, they've fallen 4, even though I think they likely make it to the Eastern Conference Finals against Milwaukee and bow out at that point.
Nicholas is where Denver should be. Denver should be 3 or 4. Milwaukee bounces them easily. Giannis, the best player in the world. Brandon, Toronto Raptors number 1. Jaylen Brown is going to become Kyrie and implode that team. Really? You think so? I haven't.
He was playing at one point in the playoffs last year. He was playing better than Tatum for him.
Well, yeah, and there are streaks where he does play better than Tatum when Tatum decides not to show up, kind of like he did in the finals last year. But the Celtics are an interesting team. I still think that they're a very good team. I don't think they're the best in the East. They have an issue with blowing leads late in games. They have had a lot of issues with. Over the course of a 3-game losing streak, most recently, they led all 3 games by at least 14 points, and they blew those leads. I was in Boston this past a week and a half ago talking to some Boston fans, and they were up at one point in the 3rd quarter by like 20 points, and they're like, "Oh, it's not safe. The lead is not safe." And I'm thinking to myself, this is Boston. What are you talking about? They're top 4 in offensive rating, top 4 defensive rating. one of the best teams in the East. What are you talking about? And everybody I talked to, I went to 2 different spots, and the fans, we were watching these Boston games, were like, no lead is safe. That's a terrifying thing if you're a Boston fan. They allowed the Cavs to score 18 points in their final 9 possessions of regulation. Remember I was talking about them having some trouble against the Cavs? A couple of those blown leads came against the Cavs. The other flip side of things, though, keep in mind, they have a 3-0 mark against the Sixers. It's kind of like a rock, paper, scissors thing going on here in the East. They are very, like, we have a little bit of Sixers lose to the Boston Celtics, Celtics lose to the Cavs, Cavs lose to the Sixers. I mean, it's kind of like it's a big circle here that's happening. Meanwhile, the Bucks are just beating everybody. So there's some things to be concerned about when it comes to blown leads late in games. Grant Williams missing a couple free throws on one of those games. It was like ridiculous. The last 2 to stay in that game that they played, but it doesn't change the fact that their net rating is number 1 overall, and their plus 5.6 best in the league when it comes to differential over the course of the season. Plus, offensive rating, defensive rating ranked 4th in both categories. Not a lot of teams are doing what they're doing on both sides of the court. So they still are a very dangerous team. I just don't think I could put them above the other team in the East. But next up, we have...
Chris, I haven't bet on them. I know about them losing leads. I bet a parlay with them and the Nuggets a couple weeks ago where Boston just needed to beat Brooklyn and Denver just had to beat Memphis. And Boston was up 22 after the first quarter at home against Brooklyn and lost that game by 10.
Yeah. That's
Kill my parlay.
That's what I'm talking
Killed
about.
it.
That's what I'm talking about with Boston. And it makes me wonder if they can put it all together in the playoffs and not blow leads against some of the better teams. I don't know. They're scary. Mikal Bridges is good, says Ty. Yeah, Mikal Bridges,
doubt.
he's averaging what, like 25 points a game at this point with the Nets. He's been absolutely balling, and that's what we were talking about with the Suns. The Suns could use a little bit of that, huh? But they don't have that, and they don't have Kevin Durant putting out that output of points when it comes to offensive efficiencies. So there you go. Tatum isn't a closer. Something missing about Tatum. Tatum, I thought last year when he melted down in the playoffs and disappeared, I was like, that's a pivotal moment in his career where he's got to change how he approaches this season. I am a little concerned about how he approaches these playoffs coming up. He better be that killer. If he's not that killer this season, Jaylen Brown might be. I mean, I people are going to murder me for saying this or a hot take. Jaylen Brown is a guy that you can trust, I feel like. I mean, he's a guy that can ball, and he's not scared to take over a game. Tatum disappears, man. And he has some of these games where you're just like, where you at, bro? Where you at? I would have traded Tatum for Durant, just saying. Yeah? I mean, it's doable.
No, I probably wouldn't have, just because of injury history with Durant and age factor. But like, if you're trying to win this year, yeah, maybe take Durant.
Our Denver Nuggets coming in here at number 3. Nuggets have had a frustrating run, and they've been turning it around a little bit as of the last 2-game winning streak, getting a win earlier on tonight, but have some tough matchups coming up. Most recently, or we got one against Saturday against Milwaukee Bucks, which, by the way, who knows if it's a back-to-back for them. So could be convenient to rest some guys in that game. But we'll see. We'll see. Either way, Denver coming in number 1 seed, 49-24 on the season, 2-game winning streak, 5-5 in their last 10. Scotty, you have him here, number 3.
Yeah. Listen, we love the Nuggets. Number 1 in our hearts.
Number 1 in our hearts. Yep.
no longer the
Roger,
favorite
Roger.
for MVP, and Nikola Jokic, who's been surpassed by Joel Embiid. Agree to disagree on that one, but
Maybe it's for the better.
this team literally beat Memphis a couple weeks ago. At that point, had basically clinched the number 1 seed in the West, and kind of took a couple weeks off. They just didn't have the energy, weren't playing with anything, and didn't have anything to play for. Like, they were so far ahead of the Grizzlies, and now that they lost 4 or 5 straight, and they're still now in a 3.5 game cushion with the tiebreaker against the Grizzlies with like 9 games to go. So listen, they're gonna finish with the number 1 seed. You talked about it. They have their next 2 games. They just finished off a 5-game road trip where they went 3-2 on the East. A lot of times for the Nuggets, when they head to the East Coast, even against bad teams, they don't play very well and have bad trips. They do go 3-2 on that one. And it'll be a fun week, Chris. Saturday against Milwaukee, Monday, Philadelphia. Next 2 games for the Nuggets at home against those 2 squads. Let's hope. I hope Giannis is going to play on Saturday. I'll be there. You coming?
I'm trying to work the magic. The
Okay.
magic to make it out to that game. So I gotta run it by a wifey a little bit. She was passing out by the time I got the news, but I'm gonna try to make it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But listen, my concerns for the Nuggets. I love Jokic. I love Murray, and I love Porter. MPJ's been so good this year.
He's been
so much
a
better
bright
than
spot.
he's been in past years. Since the All-Star break, I feel like I've seen a decline in a couple of guys. And one, Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon just hasn't seemed to be that same guy that pushed for an All-Star berth prior to, and at times was the second best player on this team in the first half of the year. He hasn't kind of been up to snuff. And KCP didn't get invited to the 3-point contest, and all of a sudden can't shoot threes. Like,
Well-
he all of a sudden he's dropped off in his 3-point shooting. That concerns me a little bit. And then of course this bench, they got to figure it out. Finally, Malone's playing Christian Brown a little bit more, which is helping, because who we added at the trade deadline with Thomas Bryant and then adding Reggie Jackson just is not working. Neither of those guys are fitting in for whatever reason. So you're basically like, right now you can trust Bruce Brown and in my opinion, Christian Brown off the bench. And that's about it.
And Bruce Brown has been streaky. I mean, Bruce Brown hasn't exactly been blowing the doors off like before the All-Star break either.
Yeah. So the bench, every game seems like they're a minus. Like when you look at the plus minus at the end of the game, every game it seems like we could win by 20 and you'd be like, yeah, but the bench was a -8, and like all the guys are like -8, -9, whatever. Cuban even is coming around on MPJ. Look at that, slightly making me eat my words. And baby, I got the munchies. MPJ is coming around. And he's not just a spot-up shooter anymore. Like, he can do more offensively. He's a good rebounder, and he's playing some defense, Chris. Is he elite defensively? No. But he just needs
serviceable.
He just needs to be okay on defense, because the dude is pure on offense. Like, I think he was 6 of 8, at least at one point in the game tonight from 3. Like, dude might be the best pure shooter in the game.
He is the best spot-up shooter in the NBA.
Size. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like Steph's. I'm not going to say he's better than Steph Curry is shooting, but...
Well, statistically this season, with the volume that he's shot per 100 possessions, he is the best spot-up shooter currently statistically in the NBA, which is what we need on this team, honestly, because this team is... I'm worried about a little bit, and I said this, and I said this about a week and a half ago. I don't know, and some of you guys who tune in for the Thursday NBA show may remember me saying this, but Michael Malone, when he gets to the end of the season, I feel like he overthinks a lot. I think he's like, all right, we have the number 1 seed. We have an 8-game lead on second place. We can start figuring out ways to like overthink this and like, all right, let's start maybe slowing down some of the things that we want to show other teams. Let's stop putting Jokic in a situation where he's overworking in games where instead of, staying up on these pick and rolls, they're dropping him and like conserving his energy and making sure that, he's able to, just get through games and not overwork himself too much because you got a lead on the West and you're feeling good. And I was like, we're going to get into this spot where we're not going to be on the normal rhythm of what we're doing from a rotation standpoint, from everything. This always happens when Malone tries to manipulate how the end of the season plays out, and how he's trying to rest the team and how so on and so forth. Well, now it's starting to get to a point where it's a little concerning, and he's actually, I feel like he's having to put some of those game plans back in. Just my gut feeling on some of this stuff. But the Nuggets were outscored 66-39 over the final 23 minutes against the Bulls. San Antonio, they were outscored 80-54 over a 26-minute stretch spanning the second and fourth quarters. The Nets, they were outscored 48-23 over a 15-minute stretch spanning the third and fourth quarters. That's a lot being outscored over a short period of time, and that has to do a lot with the defense. You have Jamal Murray mixing in with that second unit, and it hasn't worked. Jamal Murray with that second unit is probably one of the most inefficient. I think they're the bottom of the NBA when it comes to efficiency.
It's not Jamal's fault, though.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Issue.
It's not Jamal's fault. It's that unit. It just doesn't, like, when you put Jamal with the starters, he's fine. He's battling little knee stuff. I get that. When you put him with another unit, with that second unit, it is a disaster, and it is not good. The Nuggets get outscored by almost every team, and that's what we were talking about in those against the Bulls, the Spurs, and the Nets. And it's just like that lineup is a liability, and that's what needs to get fixed. But Nuggets overall doesn't change the fact that I think Jokic is still a guy that can get this team over the hump. You have a team more equipped to do that more than any other team that they've ever had in Denver. So I'm not too concerned. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being sound the alarms, I'm worried, and 1 being I'm cool as a cucumber, I'm probably a 2.5, 3. I'm still in a great spot with. I'm worried about the Suns. I'm worried about maybe a couple. The Suns, and maybe a Laker team that
Don't say what you were about to say.
I hate to say it. I almost threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Not worried about the Lakers.
Going back, no one is scared of Denver, says Milwaukee's. I mean, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that no one's scared of Denver.
I'd be surprised the Nugs make semis. Joker's overrated. Okay.
Wait.
Okay.
Who said that?
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, you lose all credibility when you say Joker is overrated. I mean, I love you. I love you, Milwaukee. We talk a lot about hoops. Joker overrated is not something that you could get away with saying. Let's just put it out there. That's not something that
He was 12 of 16 from the field tonight, Chris. Plus 28, plus minus. 12 of 16 for 31 points.
You want to talk about
and 7 assists.
Hot takes? That's not even a hot take because it's not even true. You can't have a take that's not true. Now you're just false takes. Not hot takes, false takes.
I mean, if you want to look up best plus minus in the league, the dude laps the field. There's no one even close to him. And second and third are his teammates because of, because they play with him. So that helps. But let me look. Plus minus NBA.
I mean, if you're ranking top 3 guys, Nicholas is talking about where would you rank Jokic in the league in players. I mean, it's the MVP race, right? I mean, is that what we're talking about? We got Jokic, we got Embiid, and we got Giannis in that mix for the top 3 players. And honestly, those 3 guys change games, right? You could look at the analytics, you could look at the stats, advanced stats, everything. I mean, honestly, you can just go crazy with all of it. You could look at if you want to break it down, and we're not getting into the MVP caliber conversation, right? Because I mean that could be its own 1 hour special by itself. But if you're talking about true value, if you're stripping down all of it and saying like who is the most valuable to a team if you were to take them off of a team and what that player does for you, it's hard not to put Jokic in one of the top value-wise players in the NBA, right? Or in the world, right? Giannis can go through times where he's not playing, and the Milwaukee Bucks have been able to stay afloat. Milwaukee Bucks still have one of the top 4. You could argue the Milwaukee Bucks have a top 4. 4 of their top players are the best top 4 starting players on any roster in the NBA.
Bucks are 9-6 without Giannis this year. Okay, 9-6. 76ers without Embiid are. Oh, that was last year. Can I get this for 2023, please?
Second in rebounding, 4th in assists per games. Like, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Giannis. I'm not taking anything away from Embiid by any means. I mean, we're local here in Denver. We're big Nuggets fans. We love Joker and we understand what he brings to this team. You take Joker off this team, they are 25 wins worse.
I think they're 3-5. The Nuggets are 3-5 without Jokic. 76ers are 8-4 without Joel Embiid.
And that's what it's a pure value standpoint when we're talking about
Nicholas JP. I'm not taking Jokic over Embiid, Durant, Curry, or Giannis. I'm taking him definitely over Embiid. That's not close. Durant, I'd probably take Jokic.
Durant has injury issues.
Curry and Giannis is the only one I'd put in that conversation. And really, those are the two I'd put in the conversation with him in the playoffs. But Curry hasn't always been a great playoff performer. Like, let's keep in mind they've won all those titles, but he's only been NBA Finals MVP once. It was last year. Was the first time he got it. So it'd probably come down to Giannis and him for me, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I love Curry, but no one in the right mind should take Embiid over Jokic. I'm sorry, it's not that close to me.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Can't believe you guys have the Miami Marlins #1. They don't even play basketball.
I know.
Did we mess that up? Is that where we messed up? It's a trap. It's a trap. Nuggets without Joker or like Batman movie without Joker.
I mean,
yeah.
Nuggets. Jokic has literally never played.
What about
with an all-star?
What about Jason Tatum? What about him? what are we?
Jason Tatum.
What are we talking about?
Stop it! Stop it!
I don't even know why Jason Tatum is entering the conversation, but he's not in the conversation of any of the guys that we've mentioned so far up to this point.
Nah, Tatum isn't there.
But we do have to. That being said, Sixers are #2. Unfortunately,
I gotta give them. I mean, they played some good ball recently. I think they're 8-2 in their last 10. Kind of figuring things out. Embiid's been dominant. I mean, clearly Embiid cares more about the MVP than Joker does, which is fair. Joker's never really cared, but he's also won the last 2. And I think like the noise around it has become toxic to the point that like Malone in his presser tonight after the game was just like, he wants to avoid it at all costs. Like he doesn't want to even be in anyone to bring it up to him because it's just so toxic. People like attacking, like Jokic is like one of the most likable human beings on earth.
He doesn't even want
people
it.
People are just hating on him because they don't want him to get 3 straight MVPs.
He doesn't even want it. And that's the thing. He would rather have team success over individual success. That's how he's been since he's entered the league. And, it's fine. Like, I mean, it took a 3 or 4 game losing streak, regardless of the statistics and everything else, as an excuse to take that MVP away from Jokic, which, fine. Take it away. Take it away. We're done. Like it's gotten to a point where I as a Denver fan, it's just not even fun to listen to anymore. it's not. It's like until they've. I mean, we've gotten into this ring culture. I know Damian Lillard had that little sound bite the other day where he was talking about, ring culture and what you're gauged on and this and that. And I mean, MVP mix has kind of gotten to the point where it's just very toxic of how people talk about the MVP now. And it's just like, this is the one thing about the NBA that's gotten really to me as a big NBA fan that I'm just like so sick of, man. I'm a huge NBA guy. I love the NBA. It's my love, my heart and soul. And it's disheartening this season to see how it's progressed. The conversations around how we can't appreciate good NBA players and what they're doing for their individual teams, and how it's just trashing guys, like elite players in the top of their game, best in the world. It's just a mess, man.
Let's see. Nicholas, if Giannis had Middleton last year, we could very well be talking dynasty right now with Milwaukee. Maybe. I mean, they could have won back to back. That's probably not a dynasty yet, but yeah. I mean, the potential's there certainly, and it still is, even though they lost last year. Milwaukee's Giannis doesn't care either. Nicholas, well, should Jokic really have one less MVP than LeBron? LeBron should have way more than 4. They did him wrong with that. So you literally answered the question for you. You said like LeBron should have more. So that shouldn't, Jokic compared to LeBron shouldn't matter. That's not a part of the equation. Who's had the best year this year? And that's all that should matter. Whoever's voting for MVP should just decide who had the best season in the NBA in their opinion and was the most valuable player for their team, regardless of who won last year or the year before or whatever, or how many LeBrons had. And maybe they didn't do that with LeBron. Maybe LeBron does deserve more than 4, but that's irrelevant to the conversation of this year.
But Nicholas, the goalposts of voting have moved quite substantially back and forth, and now it's just to a point where I'm just over the whole MVP conversation, man. I do know that there's a lot of debates out there, and people are loving having those debates, but it's just gotten to a point where it's just at this point, give it to Embiid, give it to Giannis. Who gives a shit anymore?
As far as the 76ers, credit to them and how they've been playing recently. You have obviously the two-headed monster of Embiid and James Harden, and Tyrese Maxey. So it's kind of a three-headed monster there. Listen, let's keep in mind though, Embiid's never made it past the second round of the playoffs, with some talented teams, right? And James Harden has been a classic underachiever in the playoffs. I don't trust this team in the playoffs. I don't trust them against Boston, and I don't trust them against Milwaukee. I think they lose a series to either one of those teams. Embiid, give him all the credit in the world. I think once things get a little more physical in the playoffs, causes him problems. Right now he goes to the line 12 times a game. I don't think he's going to be going to the line 12 times again in the playoffs, where maybe it gets a little more physical, more aggressive, and teams are allowed to bump him. And right now he's getting a lot of calls. James Harden forgets how to shoot threes in the playoffs historically, like with the Rockets. Even as an MVP year, all of a sudden he gets to the playoffs and he can't make a shot to save his life. So I don't trust him. I just don't trust this team that has been a great regular season team for years now and hasn't really made a run in the playoffs at any point. And they've had obviously some really, really good teams, and it just hasn't happened yet. So maybe this is the year they prove me wrong. But whereas the Nuggets haven't made runs the past couple of years because they've had a lot of injuries, 76ers just haven't got it done when it's mattered. So prove me wrong, Philly. Prove me wrong. Embiid and Harden are a great one too, but I just don't trust them in the playoffs. But credit to them. They're now a half game back. They could move to the 2 or potentially even the 1 in the East. They're just a half game back at 49-23 with Boston, I think, at 50-23. So that at least a number 2 seed. It's going to be a battle down the stretch between those two teams, and Philly's playing better than Boston right now. So they might overtake that spot for 2, and they're not that far off from 1. So it'll be interesting to see, but I honestly can't wait for these matchups, and I hope everyone plays for these teams with the Nuggets playing Milwaukee and Philly in these next 2 games.
So
I want everyone playing.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. And here's the thing: when I've been kind of on that edge. This is a weird year for me. I'm kind of like higher on Philadelphia more than I ever have, knowing that they're not better than some of these other teams. I just have the feeling that they've been playing better. James Harden's been in a better mix until the last 2 games. Listen to this. James Harden has been one of those guys that I'm like, all right, well, he's been, pretty consistent for the most part. Against Charlotte and against Chicago. Charlotte was a win. So, I mean, obviously, they blew out Charlotte by like 40 points, whatever. 4 for 15 field goal, 0 for 6 from 3 for 11 points. That was a blowout. You don't need to play the whole game. Get that. In a loss to Chicago in double overtime, playing 47 minutes, 2 for 14, 0 for 6 from 3 for 5 points. That's the James Harden that we know and love from the playoffs. That I'm like, wait a minute. We're getting to the latter part of the season. He's had a great season. We haven't really had to worry about him. He has his one stinker game every probably 20, 25 games, but overall has been playing pretty decent, right? I'm starting, and it's a small sample size, and most recently a game against Chicago, but those are the kind of stats that we expect to see from James Harden once we get to the playoffs. But overall, the 76ers have been playing great basketball. They're number 3 offensive rating in the NBA, top 10 defensive rating. I think they're 9th currently. So they're playing really, really well. I think, Joel Embiid's doing everything he can, even though he says he's not going to want to try to go for the NBA MVP. I still think he's going to be, without saying it, going for the NBA MVP. So I just think that there's maybe some depth issues potentially with this team. And I think that there's just, when it comes to head-to-heads with some of the other top teams in the East, I just think they struggle. And then that's where we come in with the Bucks, number 1. By the way, we have a prediction poll in the chat. Who will lead when tomorrow's stream ends? UCLA, Gonzaga, or tie? Vote. Getting ahead of it there, Rec. Like it. Some of the chat real quick. This is, I think, the voters.
I feel like they're all going to vote for tie.
It's all tied. Lopez will beat Embiid all day. I mean, let's just be real. I love Lopez. He's not as, Embiid.
Settle down, Milwaukee.
Embiid is an MVP candidate, and he's rightfully so one of the best players in the world. Brook Lopez is great. Don't get me wrong. He's very
credit
good.
to him for still existing.
Yeah, no, he's playing very good basketball, and I think that he's been what the Bucks need. But if you're telling me if I had a choice, or if I had to pick who the better player is between Embiid and Brook Lopez, it's not even close. National Predators, bricks it up. Scotty, 50K channel points on Gonzaga.
I might.
Scotty.
No, this is Milwaukee. I've been quiet all night.
Are you upset that we put your team at 1?
Which backcourt are you taking?
Which what?
Which backcourt are you taking? The Bucks or the Celtics?
I like the Bucks. I like the Bucks.
Which backcourt? Was that the question?
Yeah, you're going Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. Brown and Tatum.
Oh, I take Brown. Oh, they're not really their backcourt.
What's their Nuggets?
Wait.
I mean, but the problem is there's 5 guys on the court at one time.
Right? Well, yeah, you don't want to get me started on the 5 times at one time, because we go 12 deep.
All guys go 12 deep. All teams go 12 deep because that's what you're allowed to have. You're actually allowed to have even more than that. I believe,
No,
on your roster at a time.
I mean, we obviously have the Bucks at number one for a reason. They're a very, very good team. They have, I mean, they're starting four. I mean, they have four players on their starting lineup that are better than most four starting on any other starting lineup in the NBA. They're very, very good, and they have been playing good basketball over the course of this NBA season. There's a reason why they're number one. And
I love Milwaukee coming in hot when we literally have his team at number one. Where did you want us to separate one from two? Like,
no. I was just because I heard you talking shit about Giannis and Joker and all that.
No, I did. When was I talking? I said those are the top two players in the league, in my opinion.
And I didn't see the Clippers on this list. God bless fucking. That terrible injury last night to Paul George.
Yeah, that's why they're not on here.
That's another reason why. Yeah, they need Paul George, and he's out. He's out for at least 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, if not the rest of the. I mean, he's not coming back anytime soon. Which they need him, and the Clippers already struggle against some of the teams in the West, regardless of if he's playing or not. I mean. They don't match up well with the Denver Nuggets. They don't match up well with a couple other teams in the West. Right. And I just don't think that they're a competitive team without Paul George.
Right now, they're slotted to play Phoenix in the first round. They don't beat Phoenix without Paul George.
No.
Obviously. It's not going to happen.
I agree with that. We got to talking NBA. I figure I'd hop in here a night earlier.
Sure.
But, that's terrible. That poor guy. He's gone through a lot.
He has. I mean, he had obviously that freak leg injury when he was playing for the U.S. team years back when he was with Indiana, and had some other injury stuff. So, like, obviously, the Clippers with Kawhi and him have had some injury stuff that have come up. So, you don't love to see it. And I honestly, was looking forward to a Clippers-Suns first round with everybody healthy. I thought that would have been a really, really maybe the best first round series in all the playoffs if that happened. But now that seems a little tainted. So we'll see if maybe the Warriors move up to 5 and then we get Suns Warriors, which could be a good one in the first round as well.
So either way, I mean, we're not talking. Go ahead.
While number one, and I keep hyping Middleton has not been Middleton this year. I keep waiting. I'm like, he just needs more time. He needs to get, back in the rhythm. He's been hurt for a lot of the year. Chris Middleton has not played up to his standards for Milwaukee. That's my only hesitation with Milwaukee. And listen, I have a financial stake in Milwaukee playing Denver in the NBA Finals. I have a significant stake in that. So I want that to happen. And I think Milwaukee will represent the East. But I need to see Middleton play a little more consistent. That's my one concern with them is he just hasn't been, and I know he was out last year, but he just hasn't come back and played to his standard, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think overall, I think that there's still enough there to be the best in the East, and there's a reason they've gotten this far. They have depth. They have a solid roster to make a deep run. And honestly, I think that, there's nothing really bad to say. We're nitpicking a little bit when it comes to this. Between Holiday, Middleton, Antetokounmpo, and Lopez, you have 4 players who mesh very well together. They got the defensive presence from Brook Lopez. He does what they tell him to do, and he does it very well when it comes to guarding the paint. Giannis is a defensive presence in the paint. So, you take away a lot of that for teams that they just normally can't, get with other teams. And Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, very, very good. But yeah, I think Chris Middleton should be able to turn it on more when they get to the playoffs. They've been there. They're a veteran team. They've won it before. There's not a lot to hate about Milwaukee and what they've done. They're first place for a reason, and they're one of the best teams in the NBA. There's more glaring holes on some other teams in the East of the top of those echelon teams than I would say Milwaukee.
They're literally, I think they're 23-3 in their last 26 games. So they're obviously doing something right.
They've lost one game then since they had Middleton back, and Yeah, Crowder and Grayson Allen. I don't know if you watched Pat McAfee. They're absolute dogs.
Yeah, Grayson Allen's a bitch.
Well, that's what their job is. Like on those teams, is their job is to just be defensive.
I will never cheer for Grayson Allen.
They're just that's what their role is. They're role players to play grindy defense and just disrupt the 3-point line, disrupt everything that the other team wants to do. I mean, that's the goal, and they're both really good at it. Warriors and Kings going to be interesting. Kings, Kings are fun.
If that's the matchup, I think the Warriors will move up to 5 now that the Clips lost Paul George for the rest of the regular season for sure. Because right now, I think they're only a half game back of the Clippers. The Warriors are. I think Warriors move up to 5, and we get Phoenix, unless they try and play. You know, some of these coaches like Kerr might play with seeding and be like, "Hey, I'd rather play Sacramento in the first round than Phoenix." And then maybe you get some funny business where like Golden State loses some games on purpose. But if they actually try in their games down the stretch, I think Golden State surpasses Clippers, and we get a Phoenix Golden State first round. But we'll see what happens there.
Either way, it's going to be a lot of fun. Just a score check, by the way, in the NBA. Let's just double check and see.
Lake Show won.
Lake Show, yeah.
They move into the 10 spot in the West.
I'm Chris Scotty. Sorry, I'm a daily on the NBA show, but yeah.
You're good. I don't know if
I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Yeah. Lakers get a win here. But Austin Reeves, by the way, Austin Reeves for the Lakers has been like just blowing up over the course of the last couple of games. By the way, 25 points for Reeves. D'Angelo Russell, they were kind of figuring out he's gotten back into the rotation. 26 points for Russell, and Anthony Davis 27 points. This is what I was talking about though, and I hate talking about the Lakers. I hate the Lakers. They're my least favorite team in probably all of sports. But D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Davis, you have Vanderbilt. We talked about his defense. He's pretty much mainly his defensive guy. That's what you have in there for 13 points. But you throw LeBron James in the mix with AD, Vanderbilt. If Reeves continues to play at a high level and D'Angelo Russell at the point, I mean, that's a scary lineup.
You literally reference Austin Reeves and made it scary. It's not scary. Austin Reeves is not scary. I don't care what he's doing right now.
He's not going to get the same output when LeBron comes back because LeBron's going to have the ball in his hands and, whatever. But 6 for 10 field goals. I don't know.
His team is 36 and 37.
I'm
saying they're 36 and 37.
I'm hoping. Can I just put it this way? I'll feel better if they don't make the playoffs. Can I just say that? That's all.
Oh, I absolutely don't want them to make the playoffs.
I'll feel way better if they don't make the playoffs. Breaking news: Mark Cuban is protesting the loss to the Warriors because of that free layup, saying they shouldn't have had the ball. All right,
they should have had the ball. Is that a real story, or are you just making
that's a real story?
Okay.
Haven't seen it.
Listen, no protest has ever resulted in any result change. So good luck with that, Cuban.
There's been some. Maybe there's one story, although it was many years ago. But SB Nation did a video on one because of extra technical fouls.
It doesn't. Stuff like this doesn't happen very often when it gets overturned or anything.
I'm reading the article now. Apparently, it was originally called Dallas Ball, and then there was a timeout. And during the timeout, the official changed the call and never told Dallas, supposedly. So that's why Dallas had no one down there, and then got the Golden State was able to get the Kevon Looney's easiest bucket of his career.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, almost an all-star this year, right? Go Kevon. So there you go. There's our power rankings. We will not be doing NBA talk tomorrow. We'll be doing more of a March Madness since we'll have UCLA Gonzaga. So we're getting it out of the way. And it's good to have Scotty talking some NBA with me because we don't always talk NBA in depth as much as we typically do on our normal show. But, hey, it's going to get heating up more and more. It's going to get extra spicy with the last 10, 15 games of the season.
Spicy.
But right now, Warriors, Suns, Knicks, Kings, Grizzlies, Cavs, Celtics, Nuggets, and Sixers and Bucks are rounding out our top 10. Maybe come back next week and see if anything changes on this list.